Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joseph Clough, and this is episode 913. Now, in this episode, it is about that old topic because we always tend to have these thoughts and these ideas for the new year. So happy new year to you. I hope you do have a wonderful new year or had one and make this new year great. But I thought we'd touch upon this topic, but in a different way, hopefully, and to get to a place where we just don't treat it in a way that is gonna fail us or it's gonna kind of sabotage us. And I want us to refocus, get realigned into something even bigger and better. But it's not just about the year, it's not about just the time of the new year. It's not about any of those things. It is about our life. So I'll tell you a quick little story, a true story of mine, of when I was in a very confused place, a dark place, not necessarily, but a depressed place, I'd say, even though I was like a hypnotist and doing my work, but I was in a very kind of place that I didn't know how to navigate out of it. I felt lost, ultimately. And I'm sure you can resonate times in your life and maybe you have felt lost. Maybe you felt alone. Maybe you didn't know what to do. And it comes to a time where we think, well, something's got to change. And the only way that I knew was to do something big. To do something beyond my comfort zone, to do something that was going to scare me and actually cause me to wake up and to live. I never ever really wanted to travel. It wasn't on my agenda. It wasn't something that I wanted to do because I was very much focused with work and trying to have like success in my life. Other than going on like the vacations and holidays, and I was in England, so I'd go to like say Spain, or I'd go like into Europe somewhere. But there was a moment in my life where I just felt something had to change, and only I could do that. Now, it doesn't mean that you've got to do what I did, but I want you to take down the methodology, the mindset, the strategy, and we'll try to break it down together of what had to happen to make the change, which created many ripples beyond that. So the thing that I did, despite it scaring me, despite it being something I never really wanted to do or thought about, and if I did think about it, I would have rejected it, I went traveling. I went from England to go to Thailand for a few months, all by myself. And I'd never been away by myself other than going like trainings to educate myself and all those types of things. But to actually go to a different country, let alone in a way far away, it's like a 16, 17 hour flight, to go solo traveling. And those who do, I have so much respect for, because it was a very unnerving time for me because it was just different. But I knew something inside of me, I needed to do something. So I got all the vaccinations and booked the flights. And I remember clearly being in my garden about 10, 11 o'clock at night, just before my flight going. So the next day. And I had all these thoughts in my mind of, should I stay or should I go? And if I think about going, I can't even imagine what it's going to be like. It was so unknown and obviously literally foreign to me as to what could happen. But I knew something had to happen, so I did. I took the flight. And once I made that journey of traveling, and I met people, I had experiences, went to even like kind of like full moon parties. If you don't know what they are, they're like these crazy cool parties in Thailand. On the full moon, as you would think with that name. And it was really, really crazy cool. And I came back and I was like, wow, that really did something to me. But it led to something bigger than that, because I did so again. Probably about a year later or so, because I had to go back from the first trip to England because I was getting my book published, and they wanted me to do some promotional stuff. So I cut my journey from, it was going to be 3 months, but it was only 2 months. So I wanted to revisit that experience, but this time under different circumstances, because I wanted to get in shape more. So I went to Thailand and I went on to this kind of retreat thing where I was working out 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, and literally going crazy 6 days per week, working out. And along that journey was crazy hard because it was in the culture I didn't know of, but I went there. Again, it's still new to me in many different ways, and I was doing this whole new journey because of the foundations of the previous journey were there already. So it gave me that platform, it gave me that evidence I could do. So then I thought, what else could I do? What I really want to do? And that was to get fit. And when I got there, when we went for the first kind of jog, half a mile just caused me to want to just throw up, stop, and not do anything. But I knew there was something deeper to learn. So I was volunteering to do all these different things on this retreat ultimately, which was partnered up with a Muay Thai school of fighting. And I may have told stories on the live streams before, but times of where on that journey I fractured a rib because these Muay Thai professionals, I was getting in the ring with them, and one was like 6'7", been in the movie Expendables and things like that. He was out there training, picked me up above his head, and crazy experience. But as I was going through the whole many journeys on that one trip, there was someone on that journey who was doing one of those kind of triathlon OnDemand type of things, and they wanted to run around the whole island of Koh Samui, Thailand. And ultimately, I kind of said, well, I'll do this too. I'll do the training. I'll go ahead and do the training with you, and therefore I'm going to run around the island as well. And I did it. So when I didn't even run like a mile the first day, by the end of this it was around the 7-week mark, I think, I was able to run around the whole island of Koh Samui, which is around 30 or so miles, in one sitting. And it proved to me so much about my potential of what is possible on a physiological level, on a psychological level, because I was running technically alone throughout that journey because they were like way ahead of me. And there was like, we kind of set up at like 6 o'clock, no, it was about 4 o'clock in the morning to get out the sun, or was the sun would be coming throughout the day. But I knew that experience set me up for so much. And the reason why I talk about that story today is because there was many different mini journeys along the way. Some I told you about, some I haven't told you about, just for keeping things under time here. But the first step was I knew something had to change in my life. Like, I had to have my own accountability. Where I was lost, I was stuck, I was alone, I didn't know what to do. I knew that only I could change it. And I knew that in order to get rid of this darkness, I had to do things differently. I had to do things that I've never done before. I had to take a leap of faith on something I had no idea would actually help me. But I had to do it. I had to take responsibility for making that change. And I talk about taking responsibility a lot throughout my episodes because I could talk about it, number one, all day. Number two, it is the game changer of your life. When you assume 100% responsibility for who you are as an individual, it means the things that you've been through will not have to define you. Where you get to choose your values, where you get to choose your decisions and your future. Because we tend to live on the effect side of life, which give us those reasons. Those reasons give us validations for staying the same. And we can just fall into that as if that is who we are and that's what we're always ever going to be. But it's not, doesn't have to be that way. So on that journey, I knew I had to take responsibility. And in going into a new year, I think we all should wake up and go, look, if I do not want the same pain that I've had, whether it be from last year, the years before, we've had like the coronavirus and all those kind of things, or maybe we've had the imposter syndrome, anxiety, fears, depression for the last decade, 2 decades, maybe since we were very, very young, that we have to do something about it. Like, no one's gonna fix my lostness, only I could do that. And I want you to like kind of look in the mirror and go, look, if I really want to make a change, I get the opportunity to do something about it. You may not know the how yet, I get that. But in order to figure out the how, you have to assume that responsibility. Now, the other thing I noticed on that second trip, in order to do that, I had to work with someone. I wasn't going to just walk out by myself. So I had a trainer who was training me. So I also knew deep down that if I was going to be successful in this endeavor, this kind of vacation trip, or not vacation, it's just hard work to be honest, but this experience, I had to get someone better than me to be able to help me. And that is a theme that I've noticed over and over again by the most successful people in the world. Whether from the books that I've read, from autobiographies of entrepreneurs and game changers, from those clients that I work with who have had super successful companies, they've known that in order to level up, they need to find someone to get them there. And think about it, that's why we go to school. We get education. That's why we kind of go throughout if you think of like professionals, they have coaches, they have trainers. And it is a way that allows you to not, because you don't know what you don't know, right? And in order to know what you don't know, you need to be able to access that knowledge from someone or a place or a person who's going to elevate you to get there. And I'm not saying that you've got to, like my audios hopefully gives you a level of that, all my free work. But if you possibly can, work with someone who's going to get you there. And here's the interesting thing as well, and you may not like what I'm about to say here. In the times of the coronavirus, I had more successful professionals reach out to me because they knew in order to carry on their success, they needed to go into these new waters, navigate these new waters, because we'd never experienced anything like it before, in order to maintain that positivity and make an impact in the world, to be able to pay their staff, to be able to do those things. So they knew that they had to work with someone. And it's interesting, because a lot of the time we don't do that. Like in times of struggle, we tend to struggle more. And with the days that we have, the last 4 years or so, or what we see with like the economy and all those things, prices going up, we think there's no way we can invest in ourselves. There's no way we can do this. But I promise you, it is an investment. I'm not saying you should invest in me either, by the way. I'm just saying what I've learned in order to make a huge leaps in success. That you have to find someone you're aligned with who can get you to where you want to be. So for example, if you want to be able to get a promotion and you have all the confidence in the world, but you don't know how, you find someone who's going to help you get that promotion. Or if you're applying for a university, of course, you want to be able to get the right people who know how to successfully navigate those. So I'm not saying about me, because your goals and dreams could be absolutely different from what my business solves. I'm just saying this. In times of struggle, we tend to struggle more so, but those who are successful tend to go all in on themselves. So this year, what I'd like to have as a theme for me is, and we've talked one episode on this at the latter end of last year, of just 10xing. I want to make my goals and dreams this year to be bigger than I can even imagine at times. You see, we tend to just kind of go for the subtle changes. Like, well, if I just do this, that gradual feedback, that compound interest of transformation is going to get me there. And it may well do. But unfortunately, it can take time, even with the compound interest of transformation. But when you go through this place of hugeness, like I said in my story of doing something so drastic, so big, going to Thailand, which I never thought I could do, it yielded this huge transformation, even in the fear of not knowing what was going to happen. And I've noticed every time I'm successful in my goals and dreams, my goals and dreams have been so much bigger than I thought was possible. And it comes down to a couple of things, but usually, like for example, when I was at school, my only goal was to get a C because that's all I thought I was worth. That's all I thought I could ever get. And what did I get? C's or D's. You see, when you get your outcome, you get the outcome or something a little bit less, right? Because you either hit it or it's going to be less. But if you start to go, well, I'm going to go for that A star or that A, then even if I don't know I'm going to get there, I could get the A, but I could get the B, right? So even the B for me would have been amazing because C was the biggest thing ever. And I've noticed in my biggest leaps of transformation in business, in my development, I've set up these big, kind of unattainable goals and made them so big that I had to take massive action upon them. Now, sometimes that can be fearful, like I said in that story of mine of going to a different country and doing all these different things all by myself. But that is where the learning was. That's where the growth was. That's where the hugeness of my life transformed. And it gave me the ability and the resources to do other things in the future. You see, what you don't know is the things that you do which are going to be big will actually be a platform. Like for me, it was to go back there again. But even if I think about it now, that experience allowed me to move countries. And I've now lived in America for about 6, 7, 8 years or so. All my family is in England, and that learning allowed me to do those things. And that was a huge learning, right? I came to America with a suitcase, technically. That's all. Suitcase and a backpack. And that was the foundations, but I knew it was possible because I had this evidence that it was possible in a different situation scenario. So if I were to think about my new year, rather setting goals, change it to outcome, right? This is my outcome. Goals we hit and miss, but this is my outcome. I'm going to make it so big and bold that it's going to be a little bit fearful, but it's going to excite me because if I got it, it would allow me to live the life in such an extraordinary way. That you get to live, you get to love, you get to do all these things. So make your goal, whatever it is, so big that it does fill you up with a bit of fear, but it also excites you. It allows you to go, wow, this is why I'm doing this. And like I said, I've got many experiences of that. Like when I set out my podcast, when I started to get a small bit of traction, I was like, I'm going to get 100,000 downloads a month. I don't know how, never done it before, but I did it. I figured it out. I did all the work. In growing my business or growing the YouTube and all those kind of things, I set up these big goals. And those big goals were the thing which ignited something within me. It wasn't the small goal. It wasn't the subtle steps. It was doing something bigger than I thought was possible. And that caused me to really start to experience change. And like I said, find someone to help you get there. In any endeavor that you're going for. Excuse me. Because that's, by the way, I've just been back from England, so I'm a little bit jet lagged, fuzzy head, so if I cough and things like that, I'll do my best not to. But that's just what's going on. I haven't had much sleep recently. So, going back on track, this year, make your goal almost so unattainably great that if you get it, it will be life-changing. But if you get just under it, it's still life-changing, and it will give you the evidence to be able to be, do, and have so much more. Have that level of accountability with working with someone. Because one of the hardest things is doing it by yourself. It really is. Because you don't know what you don't know, like I said, you only know what you do know. But if you can start to tap into the knowledge bank of other people's experience, because they've been doing it for decades. Like, I've been doing what I've been doing, working with a mind for over 2 decades now. So I know a lot about the unconscious mind. I know how to let go of limiting beliefs. I know how to let go of negative emotions. Like, it's what I do. It's just what, like, day in, day out, that's what I do. That's my profession. If I'm going to take my car to fix it, I'm not going to fix it myself. I haven't got the education in that. Yeah, I could try to look it up in the book, in the manual, and all those kind of things. But the easiest, quickest solution is to take it to a professional mechanic to be able to do the work and to make sure the car is totally safe before I start tinkering around with it. There are so many things that you kind of do that for, but we rarely ever do it for our own personal development. I have a couple of theories as to why. Number one, the biggest issue that most people experience, and this study was only conducted by me, by my thoughts, and that's just how I gather my information on this one. I'm sure there's many studies. But based on my experience for the last 22 or so years doing this, the biggest reason people do not achieve their goals and outcomes, do not invest in themselves, or do not do the work, or do not do the 10x big goal dream, is because they don't believe that they're worth it. Unconsciously. They don't believe they're good enough. They don't believe they're capable. And therefore, they don't feel that they're worth investing in. Whether it be through investing in money or investing in time. Unconsciously, that self-sabotaging, limiting belief of, can I do this? Am I worth this? Am I enough to do this? Am I worthy of this? Getting that job of my dreams, of making the thousands of dollars a month, or having the relationship, the love of my life, or to have that career, or to pursue that dream, or to go to a different country, whatever it is for you personally. Most people do not do that because unconsciously, even if you consciously go, well, of course I'm worth it. On paper, I've got all the education. I went to this college, this university, or everyone tells me I'm great at my job. But deep down, that evidence doesn't matter. On paper, it's great, but it's not true. And I say that not because it is an illusion within itself, because it is true. But the real truth is your own belief. Like, because that's your filter, right? That's your perception. That's how you observe the world. It's through your own personal filters. So even if everyone says that you're good and great, even if your experience says, yeah, you should have that position, or you should have that good and great relationship, if there's that part of you on the inside, and that part of you is always unconscious, by the way, is saying, am I worth this? Am I enough for this? Am I capable of this? Or worse, I'm not enough for this. I'm not good enough for this. I'm not worthy of this. There's no way we can achieve those goals and dreams because you are unconsciously self-sabotaging before the get-go. So you don't invest in yourself in the time or in the financial side of things. Like, some people, you could say, and I'm not saying, look, there's not shame about money. I know money can be a scarcity thing. It can be a hard thing to come by, but there's always a way. I promise you there's always a way. That's why I talk about this sometimes, because I'm a big believer in investing in myself. That's just because that's where I've seen the biggest changes. But there's always going to be a way where you get to live your life on your terms when you start to go all in on letting go of that root unconscious issue. Like, it doesn't have to be long. It can be a matter of weeks. But that's the other part of the illusion, right? And the first illusion I said, why we don't achieve our big goals and dreams, and we can look back and regret for not having done those things in years to come, of that, because of that limiting belief. But the other issue is that most people think that because they've had their issue for so long, it must take the equal amount of time to let it go. It is a myth, a total myth. It does not take the equal amount of time. And I'll tell you exactly why. Because If, for example, you say, well, I've had 10 years of depression or 10 years of the imposter syndrome, or maybe 30, 40 years of not feeling good enough, therefore it's going to be a lifetime of struggle to undo it. The reason why that's a myth is because the time of the decision of creating that limiting belief usually happens in a moment. Yeah, you have bad, significant emotional events, which I wish we never had, but it's part of life. It's just what we go through, and it's up to us how we start to navigate that by waking up to our true potentiality. But it was the decision unconsciously. For example, let's just say there's a young kid in an abusive home, and they've been told that they weren't good enough by their parent or a sibling for like 2 or 3 years. Like, why don't you ever get good grades at school? Why don't you achieve more? You're never going to amount to anything. Like, you could be told, or not you, get back to, because I don't like to add you to this. In this imaginary example of this kid, they go through all that experience, all that being told that, but one day they'll go, that's true. In that one moment, that's true. That must mean I'm not good enough. You see, the decision unconsciously to have that limiting belief can take a moment. It's not the decade of experiencing of it that creates the issue. It wasn't the prior experience of the weeks or the months of being told that. It was in that one moment of going, yeah, that's true, unconsciously. So if that is true, now even if we broaden it out to a week or two, that decision, usually is a moment. But let's just say if we want to kind of make it a bit more bigger, just so it's more understandable. So we've had it for years, but there's been that week of thinking about it where we go, that must mean I'm not enough. It means the unconscious mind made that decision in a short period of time. So therefore, even if you've had years, decades of the issue, it can also take a moment to undo it. Yeah, there may be the same kind of preparation time. Maybe there's a few weeks of doing the foundational work, doing the processes to let it go. But in the moment of transformation, it is literally sometimes a moment, even if it's a couple of weeks. That reframe should really ignite us to go, okay, that must mean, despite having all my issues, despite not believing I'm good enough, worthy and deserving and capable, it can take a moment, it can take a day, it can take a week, it can take a month to let go of every issue in my life by working on that root cause. So make it your purpose, not just, I'm gonna work on my issue. Make it your purpose. Make this one thing the big thing. Because the root cause of all goals and outcomes, whether we achieve them or not, is gonna be around your identity. Your identity of your worth, of what you're capable of, your values, your self-belief, all of those things comes to your identity. When you start to dismantle the old and uncover the truth of your potentiality, where you awaken to that moment and go, do you know what? I am worthy of a good, great relationship. I am worthy of financial abundance. I am worthy of that career or that job. I'm worthy of making that decision, going to a different country, traveling, whatever it is for you. When you get to that place where you are 100% consciously and unconsciously congruent, you will start to live life like you never have before. You will start to feel so much joy, so much love, that you'll wake up every single day excited to take on the day, excited to take on the challenge, excited to do what has to be done. There's no better feeling when you wake up and you know that you're worth it, that you are love, that you are peace, that you are wholeness, that you are deserving, that you are enough, that you matter. All of those things wrapped up as one thing. When you get to that place, life is magical. And it just undoes. It doesn't change the past, but it changes how we perceive it. I look back at my anxiety now as the best thing that ever happened to me. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be the same for you, because I know some people have been abused in lots of different ways, and I didn't have that. I'm always honest about what I personally went through. But what I would say is, for me personally, my anxiety woke me up to something more. It caused me to make this change. When along the way, it caused me to want to help others do the exact same thing. So it woke me up to living a life by standing up to it, taking a stand for what is right, for what is good for me, good for the world, good for others. So this year, make not a goal, even make not an outcome, make it a theme. But this is the chapter where you 10x your thinking, your dreams, your vision, your mission, and your ambition. You start to associate with people who will get you there, who will take you by the hand and say, this is the way, this is how you do it. So you're not in the dark alone, navigating by yourself. There's someone showing you the way, who's showing you the light to get to where you want to be. And without a doubt, do the work in letting go of that one thing. It's a big thing, but one thing, which is that core limiting identity. It's the unconscious stuff, I call it the hidden root cause, because it usually is hidden. When we do that, you will wake up every day, not just knowing you are enough, not just knowing that you're worth it, but knowing you are undeniably love at the core of who you are. And not many people feel that way. Not many people in society feel that way. In the world, don't really feel self-love. They seek validation from other people to try to get it, or other people's opinions, or people please, and they seek out that validation. But you don't get a validation really from the external. It can help once you have it internally, because you know you're enough. When someone else says you're enough, you go, yeah, that's true. But you don't ever keep on seeking it out externally, because you'll never get it. You have to get it from within. You have to know it. You got to touch it and feel it for who you are as an identity, to do the work. Make that your theme, to not repeat the past, to 10x your thinking, take massive and inspired action, dream wildless, boundless dreams that will allow you to truly live and love life, and to go all in the one thing that's getting in the way and stopping, which I believe myself is the unconscious mind. And we know why it's doing it, because it's trying to protect us, it's trying to keep us safe, but it's just made a mistake along the way. We know why, or we know like how easy it is, because we were probably very young. Probably, or if we're old, we're in a highly associated state of stress, a significant emotional event that makes a decision that, oh, that must mean I'm not this. But once you undo that, and it can take a week, it can take a month, it can take a moment. Once you undo that, life will never be the same again. So do whatever it takes to make that happen. Now, of course, if you resonate with me personally, if you resonate with others, work with others. If you resonate with me personally and you have the imposter syndrome and you are a professional and you are going to abide by the 10x thinking, you're going to take responsibility, you're going to be invested in yourself. Like, that's who I look for, because that's where we get our results. You can go to josephclough.info/talk and you'll go ahead, fill out an application. You'll go ahead then book a time to be able to speak with us on like a one-to-one level. And when you attend that call with the person, they'll get clear on you, like what's getting in the way, what's stopping you, what's really beneath, see if we can solve it. If my system fully customized for your needs can solve it, we'll let you know. And we may invite you into the program. And I say we may, just because we want to make sure we protect the group ultimately. Like, I want real good people in our program who's going to be loving, supporting for themselves and the group. And also, I tend to want to like people I like working with. So go to josephclough.info/talk if that is of value to you. And with that, my friends, you have a most wonderful day. Many thanks and goodbye.